Alicia. And I'm really excited because I have Raheem Nelson back here on the podcast. If y'all didn't get a chance to listen to our first conversation, his episode was 148, and it was entitled Empowering Black Creativity, Liberation Through Visual Art and Design. And it was such an awesome conversation. Like, we had such a great time just, you
Yeah.
know, getting to know each other. And so it's
hmm
wonderful to have you back on the podcast, Raheem. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me back, Alicia. Like I said, it was a phenomenal pod appearance and was able to touch on a lot of things that I don't usually get to talk about. So yeah, I just like that it was free flowing and I was able to do promotion, of course, but like it was just a genuinely good conversation to have.
I love it. And then the last time, we're not gonna go majorly into majorly. Is that even a word? Who knows? But the point is, majorly,
Why not?
bigly. Here we are. But we're not gonna go into a lot of what we talked about the last time. But our conversation on liberation was so empowering. To a lot of the listeners and just even to myself. And I feel like that is something that we just have to keep striving for, regardless of where you are in your space. I just felt that that was such a beautiful conversation
hmm
around liberation and how it relates to your art and the work that you do. But I wanted to, we talked about this before I hit record briefly, but I'm excited to talk about a piece that Raheem did. But before we talk about that, I just wanted to just kind of give people an idea of the type of work that you do and
hmm
how it actually shapes, just like even like the corporate world and things
Mm.
of that nature. Like, just share with us some of the cool things that you do and how that makes things move and groove in those spaces.
Yeah, so I think for our last conversation, this was before I had an art show I was curating with the Milford Arts
Yes.
Council, and I'm the director of marketing over there at the Milford Arts Council in Milford, Connecticut. And that show went extremely well. Um, it was really nice to not only be able to curate a show in Milford that is
Hmm.
predominantly white, inclusive. They're definitely making a lot of waves, but it's been predominantly white. So
Hmm.
being able to be in that space and invite a lot of my friends from New York, New Haven, Hartford, a ton of other surrounding areas, and then like the great thing about it, it was not only an exhibition, it was a gathering of friends and new friends, but it was also a conversation. A good friend of mine who was also a podcaster, Kobe Smith, I entrusted him to partner with me to have a podcasting session live at
Mm.
the gallery event. So introductions and things like that, of course, but then we did like a round robin of the artists talking about their art, talking about their stories, and just sharing with the audience. And just, it was like a really beautiful, once in a lifetime thing. And people were letting me know, like, that they really felt as though they had a safe space. And I
Mm.
think for me, that's important with my own art. That's important that I'm able to get that message across with my own stuff. But it was a really beautiful collaborative project where artists of color and myself were able to come together and create this evening. It was like a full house too. Like it was really packed where people were able to have conversations, enjoy the art, but also get to enjoy the narrative behind it because there's that really nice contrast between, okay, what does the artist intend for this piece to mean versus like what the patron or the viewer is taking away from it. So it was just like a really organic conversation. And I realized whenever I do or curate a show, I definitely want to have that podcast element in it because more artists need to share their stories and be heard too.
I love that. That is such a cool concept because, like you said, as a person coming to an exhibit, you kind of have your own interpretation, and you might have like a little excerpt under the art to kind of give you an idea, but to really have the artist there and to explain everything, that is really cool. Like, so how did you come up with this idea? Like, where did that even come from?
Maybe an experience I had in New York, I think,
Okay.
where I've been to artist talks, interactive events, talkbacks, that kind of thing. But I don't think I had ever really seen it in an art exhibition format at
Right.
least in the sense where there was also a live podcasting element, also opportunities to have the artist interface with not just the podcaster, but the audience as well. So I wanted it to be like a celebration, an exhibition. I kind of wanted to take like the stuffiness out of it that usually comes with traditional art spaces and kind of
Right.
tear down that, so to speak, and have it be like fun, welcoming, inviting, where people can get to know these new artists. We had a few sales too, which was really great. And I think if somebody is able to attach a story to a piece of art, it makes it more attractive. And like I think that was one of the goals for me too, is like really give these artists a platform to shine. And that's one of the reasons why I really enjoy my job in Milford is being able to put on other artists.
That first of all, I love that because I'm thinking about like now, like different products that you buy and different, just even just like websites. People have their story now on
Yep.
there, and that really does draw people in. It's like, oh, I want to be a part of that. So, like you said, you had a few sales, and I think that's it because people want to know the story. They want to know why you got into that or what was the pain point that caused you to actually do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
That listen, I think that like you said, this is something that you can continue on doing. And then on top of that, just something you can go back and listen to or even watch. I don't was it a video at all or no?
We posted some videos,
Uh-huh.
and I have like pretty much most of the recording via Zoom. My friend's computer crashed, so like we
Oh
got most of
no.
it. It's like the conversation was too real for the computer. It's like, oh, I can't take it, and it
Oh
crashed
my
out. Yeah.
god.
But yeah, tons of footage. And we kind of chopped it up too, and had different perspectives. One of my good friends who was in it, her name is V, and she is phenomenal because she's also a veteran, and she
Mm.
shared her story about feeling kind of boxed in as an artist that was also a veteran. Like she wanted to be able to express herself, so she was able to find her voice, and she just kind of expressed like a huge thank you to me to have this platform to do the podcasting part with my friend Kobe, and then also sharing her story in a different setting, and just watching her like really take off has been great. So I love being able to share in somebody's story and help them be successful. Like it just really lights me up.
Right. And I love because when you started talking about this whole like the exhibit in the beginning, you emphasized that in Milford it's predominantly white.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the fact that you had this opportunity to expose that community to art. And were all the artists, were they people of color, all black or?
Yeah, it was a show for Black History Month, so that was
Oh, yes.
specifically people of color, people in the diaspora, which I really enjoyed because I've curated shows in the past, but
Right.
never like that. It was just completely different,
Yeah,
really elevated.
I love that. And the reason why I was saying that is because, it's constantly breaking down those stereotypes and breaking down like this whole monolith component of who we are as black people. Like we all
Yeah,
have different ways of doing things, and we have different interests. Like we are individuals within this brown skin. Like you know what
yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah, definitely.
And it's and as sad as it is, it's like that exposure is necessary in those
Yeah,
spaces. You know what I'm saying? So I think, and I don't know, you can let me know like the responses from people, like not to say like, oh, I didn't know all black people were, had these different thoughts and feelings, but like it just to see like how they responded.
it was
You know what I'm
there.
saying?
That definitely was there. There was just so much. Like I didn't plan the submissions that I got. It wasn't even really an open call. It was just like
Right.
a call to my friends and friends of friends to contribute work. And I think the only thing I had said was like, just contribute something that moves you, like something that
Mm,
makes you happy. And I think that really helped everything kind of coalesce and come together. Like I got pieces that were abstract. I got some pieces that were like more literal, portraits, paintings, sculptures, photographs. My good friend Kim Weston contributed like this really beautiful. It's like really huge, probably the biggest piece in the show, and she is part Native American. So she was able to bring that perspective into the show and like this beautiful headdress, and she photographs, Native American dancers, doing powwows and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
So being able to have that in the show, have like the Black, the Native American, the Asian, the Hispanic, it's just all a melting pot. Like we all come from the
Right.
motherland. So having that reflected in the show was like really phenomenal. Being able to help share everybody's perspectives
Mhm.
really helped, I think, reawaken in me the love of curation and how that is an art in itself. And then just planning how everything was going to be laid out, and kind of like, I don't want to say putting my ego to the side because I didn't really have any ego to begin with in this capacity. I was just more thinking, okay, I've got all these pieces plus mine. How do I make the puzzle pieces fit together? So I
Right.
kind of like freestyled it, and I had like help from a really great volunteer that works for the MAC, my friend Garrett, who helped me lay everything out and help get everything hung. And then he just kind of gave me the keys, like, I think you can handle the rest. And I did. And like just the layout was really phenomenal. And like one of the last few pieces that I was able to lay out, because like we're pretty much at capacity, she had, and this I'm talking about V again, the artist
Uh-huh.
friend of mine. She had, I think, 4 to 6 pieces. I think maybe like four, and it was part of a set, and it was about like this wine glass and like these hands just pouring the wine and everything, enjoying the wine. So it was a set of four, and then somebody just hit me like, okay, we put that on the table and we put a wine bottle in the center, and
Mm.
that can be like the centerpiece. And that's where the podcast was too. So when people were able to come over and congregate, they would get to see this other piece of art too. And it just kind of really helped bring everything together.
I love that. That's such an innovative way to like bring something like that you normally see it so like you said in the beginning kind of stuffy,
Yeah.
really like just uprooted in a way that it's still like a memorable moment, but in such a different way. I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. Now, do you have any like any projects like that coming up anytime soon? Or are you still in the works of?
I actually do. I think I'm looking at having another show in November at the Creative Arts Workshop in New Haven. We're still in the planning stages of it. But essentially, it's going to be, and I think we talked about this a little bit the last time, like this skill that I use, the graphic recording.
Yes.
Yeah. So I got a grant from the city of New Haven to create graphic recordings, in, my birth town. So I was able to create works and use pre-existing pieces that I've done for nonprofits and corporations and
Mhm.
kind of turn that into a series. And I don't think I've ever heard of like an exhibition of just graphic recordings, because graphic recordings are typically used primarily for the client, or maybe they're used for greeting cards or something like that. But I
Right.
kind of wanted to take this skill that I'm able to use to help people and, foster my own art career, and kind of put that in a gallery space similar to what I did with the Black History Show. So kind of taking graphic recording out of the traditional space, which would be for like a conference or a Zoom call, and putting it in a gallery setting, because again, it's like I'm taking people's thoughts, feelings, opinions, and I'm turning that into art, and it's really helped take my career to the next level. So I want to show like the progression of these graphic recordings, and I've done a lot for the city of New Haven. I've done some for like climate change. So just like a lot of different pieces. Like the through line is that they're all done to help and educate people. And
Right.
I really want to put this on full display. So we're looking at doing that show in November, I think. And I think it's going to be really a lot of fun because I printed these pieces out on canvases. So I'm, again, taking the digital art and combining it with traditional art, so
Right.
that there is like a tangibility that comes with it. Like I'm creating the artwork on the iPad, and it's being printed out on the canvas so people can, look at it, touch it, and they'll have a few other things in store too for when we do the exhibit. But I think it's going to be a blast.
That sounds really cool. And I don't know if I asked you this last time, but with the graphic recording, because you're doing that in real time as like a meeting's happening or whatever,
Hmm.
will you still be, do you think you'll do that during the actual exhibit, or will you just have the ones you've already created? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that is a good question. I might have a time lapse, and I might do either a workshop on the opening reception day, or
Okay.
I may have that be like its own separate thing, like where I'm doing like a workshop maybe the week before, and then the opening reception. Because there's definitely an educational component to it, like graphic recording. It's done by different artists as well. I only know one other artist in Connecticut doing it.
Okay.
So I think part of the responsibility I have is educating other people on what it is, what the skill is, just what it takes. And like, it's a lot. Like when I really think about it, like it's active listening, it's design, it's illustration, all in one, where
Right.
all those things have to be happening at once. And then, when I graphic record for a client, like I'm typically very tired afterward.
Okay.
And I don't realize that, especially if it's like an hour or 2 hour thing. Like I've
Right.
done this for like the most I've done, probably like 4 to 5 hours at a time,
Hmm.
and just like done. Cause like you're
Right.
getting all of these opinions, capturing the main idea and turning it into art where it has to look good at the same time. So it's just like so many things that have to happen, like the
Right.
active listening, the art. So yeah, it takes a lot to do it well, I think.
Oh, wow, that is so cool. I mean, I've never seen that done, so it would be. I think for people who, come to the exhibit, that might be something they're
Yeah,
interested in. So
yeah,
that's why
yeah,
I asked. I was like,
yeah. It's a good idea.
yeah, that would be kind of cool. You have to
Yep,
keep me posted on that.
I will
Yeah.
definitely, definitely.
No, but I'm really excited, y'all. I actually, because in my snooping of things, just making sure I'm like up to date with what's going on, I saw a really cool piece that Raheem did, and it's called Purity. And I would love for you to just kind of like take us through like the inspiration of this particular piece and like, just and even what it's about. Because I don't want to like spoil it or even like ruin like what it's really about. But I
Yeah,
was so impressed by this. So yeah, let us know, what is Purity about? Where did this inspiration come from? Yeah, I'm like really excited to know more about it.
sure. So definitely a multi-part question,
Okay.
and I'm thinking of how to break it down.
Okay.
Really excited to talk about this project. This is something I've been working on for maybe the past 2 years or so.
Oh wow.
Um,
Okay.
this, and I'll start by talking about the individual piece and then how it fits into the series. Purity is an illustration directly inspired by a friend of mine who created an album, like a concept album,
Okay.
hip hop album based on this show called Snowfall. And Snowfall
Oh.
is based on the crack epidemic, Reaganomics. It has a central character called Franklin Saint and his rise to stardom in the drug kingpin era, so to
Mhm.
speak. Like he pretty
Right.
much takes over LA with his product. And what I love about the show is that there are consequences to this person's actions, and like he's destroying communities,
Right.
destroying his family, and it gets to a really painful place for him where he loses everything.
Mm.
Um, so Skyzoo is one of my heroes, and he knows this too. But I'm really looking forward to him hearing the podcast. He's one of my heroes.
Okay.
I've listened to his music for a long time. I think since his first album, and after hearing it, and for those who aren't acclimated to his music, Skyzoo, I would describe him as somebody in the same vein as like your Nas,
Mm.
Jay Z, Pharoah Monch, that type of lyricism, that
Right.
type of storytelling. He grew up on the same block as Biggie Smalls. So
Wow.
all of that kind of informed his experiences where he never, and we've had conversations about this, he never sold drugs or anything, but he was in an environment where he saw those things. So
Right.
for this concept album, he's basically, I like to think of it as like method acting. Like he's portraying this character from this show but also adding nuance and layers to it. And the show is very nuanced and layered as well. But what Skyzoo was able to do with this album, which is called The Mind of a Saint, was able to take this character and like do a character study. And I was so fascinated by that. And I ended up meeting him after, I forget which album it was, one of his albums that came out. And there was an artist talk in New York. And yeah, we'd had exchanges online and everything here and there. But we became really cool after that. And I volunteered doing photography for one of his events for this artist talk in New York. And it went so well. I was like, hey, like, I really want to collaborate with you. And it was just this kind of thing of like finding the right project. So after this album came out, and I hadn't seen the show like beforehand, I listened to the album. I was like, okay, well, I got to watch the show now. And I asked him if I could interview him. And we did that. It went over really well. And then I think a few weeks went by and I pitched to him an idea, because when I listened to the album, and I still listen to it on the regular, it's like a story was being painted, a story within the story, because I was familiar with the show, but like I'm listening to his take on the show and the characters and how he tells certain things, because he was able to portray the series of events that happened in the show. But he also had like these what if scenarios. And this is where Purity comes in.
Okay.
Purity is a what if scenario if Franklin Saint, like at the height of his powers in LA, you know, with his real estate businesses and all these other things, because he was trying to go legitimate, meets the Nipsey Hussle family. Like he meets Nipsey Hussle, his brother, and his father. And it's the song, like, it's so layered, but this one section of the song is Franklin meeting the Hustles and realizing he's destroying this community, because he's seeing that Nipsey Hussle's father is on the straight and narrow, and he's instilling these values in these black boys that Franklin himself is not instilling in his community and in his family. So the beautiful thing, and this Purity piece is part of a larger series, so I'm illustrating every track on this album that Skyzoo has done, which is called The Mind of a Saint, the deluxe edition, which I think has 17 tracks, but I'm doing, I want to say like 20 pieces, because one or two of the songs needs to have multiple illustrations to properly tell the story.
Okay.
But going back to Purity, when I was illustrating it, and I consult with Skyzoo on each piece to make sure I'm getting his vision, his knowledge of the show, because he's extremely knowledgeable about the show. Like, they should have hired him to, you know, write some of the stories.
Right.
Making sure his input is in there, because I'm doing illustrations based on his music, based on the show.
Right.
And this piece kind of came out of it. And part of the pitch to him was illustrating it in a Charles Schultz style, because the character Franklin was inspired by Franklin from the Peanuts. So taking this heavy subject material and adding some whimsy to it, but also telling it in a way where, like, it's whimsical, but it's also serious. Like, I'm making it palatable.
Right.
So the whole series is done in like a Charles Schultz-esque style. And I really love the way this Purity piece came out, because I wanted to illustrate it like a family portrait, almost like a disjointed family portrait, so to speak.
Right.
Like, the Hustles are very close together, and Franklin is a little separated from them. He's a little removed, because he is a drug kingpin, and he's trying to keep that secret from the boys and the father, which is also in the song, and I wanted to portray that. I think the line is like, I wanted to hide my 9mm and my Lacoste polo so that they weren't exposed to that, so they didn't see that. Meanwhile, you can also juxtapose that with the fact that he's removed from the fact that he's destroying these communities and he's peddling all this product. So he's not willing to stop that, even though he's having this moment of clarity and this moment of reflection. And I really wanted to honor that and respect that, because that was a moment that Skyzoo created for this album. Like, he's doing music based on this show that he really enjoys, but he's adding another layer to it. So I wanted to make sure I was respectful to the source material and also respectful to his music, which is why I think this has just been such an amazing product, and uh, just had so much fun with it, being able to get to know one of my heroes. And he actually performed at the Milford Arts Council also,
Oh wow.
which was phenomenal. So like just taking all that energy and putting that into this project, and it's almost finished. I think I'm on like maybe illustration 16 or 17
Hmm.
out of 20. So when it's finished, I definitely have big plans for it. But yeah, I think the lesson is like, you know, there's a story of like, never meet your heroes and this, that, and the third. Like, Skyzoo is a solid guy, and I've had a lot of luck with meeting my heroes and being able to actually form relationships with them and become friends and collaborators. Like being able to create this project with him and be able to talk about it, because and I get it, he didn't necessarily want me to like be working on it and then like just posting like crazy about it. It's like, no, like keep it on the low, like
Right.
get to this point and then we can talk about it. And then the other layer to it is he commissioned me to create some T-shirts for him since he's on tour right now. So I took, I think, 9 character illustrations inspired by Snowfall, and then he turned that into T-shirts that he's selling as merch for limited edition. So it's nice to have that reciprocity where
Mm.
he's like, okay, yeah, we're working on this project together, but I want to commission you to do this. So it's just really cool to have that mutual respect and that mutual understanding where I've been able to make that transition from fan to friend to collaborator. Like it's just phenomenal. It's like I'm just thinking my lucky stars.
That is amazing. First of all, because I'm literally thinking about the conversation we had the last time and how you were just sharing about like how this actual career has liberated you in ways to just live in your dreams. And like
Yeah.
as you're saying this, like you're meeting your heroes, you're becoming, close friends with them and then collaborating with them. Like that is the epitome of like just living in your truth and living in like your actual dreams. And like that's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very liberating. Like it's just a really good feeling to be able to contribute to him,
Hmm.
contribute to myself, and create work that uplifts people. As this story, the story itself is like pretty dark, but there's a
Right.
message there. So it's like, what can I add to the conversation? And that's
Yeah.
really what I'm thinking of in terms of this project. And every time I do a new project within the series, like it's able to say something. One of the illustrations that comes to mind is based on a song he did called Panthers and Powder. And the
Mm.
character, his father is a Black Panther who ended up turning to alcoholism and drug abuse.
Right.
And so having this juxtaposition between the absentee father, who was a Black Panther, trying to make a difference, but his life went left. And then how does that impact his son, Franklin? And the illustration, I posted on Instagram, I think a few months ago.
Mhm.
It's the house that they reside in, that he used to reside in before, he turned to this life. They're facing each other, but like they're miles apart. The
Mm.
house is in the center, and then there's like a wall, a brick wall. It's supposed to look like bricks, but it's actually
Right.
bricks of cocaine,
Wow.
hinting at the son's future as a drug kingpin. And then there's a flag that says Free Huey, the Black Panthers,
Yes.
and then the house in the background. So all these different elements that are in the show and then that are in the song, because he took elements that were in the show and he further explored them. So I'm kind of taking those two things again and
Hmm.
bringing light to them in this illustration. So creating this work, getting his feedback, and just having it be like overwhelmingly positive has been like amazing. And he'll have feedback here and there, like, oh, if you tweak this or tweak that.
Right.
But it's almost never like, oh, well, you got to change this illustration completely, because I'm a fan of the music. I respect the craft. And in the conversations I've had with him, like, okay, you bent this in this line and this connects here and that connects there. It's like, yeah, you got it. So I'm putting that into the art.
Wow. And it's funny because as you were like, just explaining, I haven't seen that actual piece.
Hmm.
But as you were explaining that, I was like, "Oh my!" And the thing is, too, is I haven't seen Snowfall. But I
Hmm.
saw like different, like I guess it's like a trailer, like
Yeah.
advertisement or whatever. And so I never just thought to look at it, but now I'm really interested in actually looking at it. I need to watch more TV. That's a whole other story because
Yeah.
I really watch TV. But all that to say, as you were just explaining that, and I was thinking about the idea of bringing like a human like concept to certain people, and I think it's what your art is doing as well. It's like because we'll see someone who's either like a Black Panther, face value, oh, they're this militant, blah blah blah, whatever, right? Or whatever that means, to whoever, and then also seeing this whole idea around the person maybe having some type of substance issue, but then also realizing these are still people. Like
Hmm.
he's there are things in humanity where you can do something really great and you can still be struggling with a lot of things at the same time. And
Hmm.
I love that piece that like, and I don't know, you didn't say that, I write it out, but I think that's something that's important for people to realize is like as we look at art and as we even just look at people in general, like we're all human. Like we all have, great moments, and we also have some moments where, it's like I just can't get it together, and
Yeah.
I love that that's what you're portraying through this art as well.
Thanks. Yeah, that was definitely the idea. Taking these characters, taking this story, and treating them fairly too. Like I
Yeah.
didn't create the characters, and based on what I've seen in the show, based on listening to the music, I wanted to create a companion piece where I was giving my interpretations of these characters
Mm,
and kind of doing it in a way, I guess, where it was impartial. Like these things happened, this is how they happened, and I, as an artist, am not judging these characters for these things.
yeah.
I'm just telling a story.
Right. And that's what's so important too is like not putting your bias in it or whatever. It's like here's just the story, and you take it for whatever it is, but this is the story,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I love that. And I love another thing. I was like, I love the fact because when I saw the purity piece initially, and I saw that the characters were like that Charles Schultz influence,
Hmm.
I was like, is he talking about like Franklin, like the character? I was so that's why I was
Yep.
like, please explain this to me because I was like, I was an avid Peanuts, like
Yeah,
like
definitely.
that was like my time. Like I
Yeah.
loved the Peanuts. I loved Charlie Brown, the whole thing, and so it was like. Is he talking about Franklin, meaning Nips, like literally
It's funny that you mentioned that because that was I think one of the original pitches. Like the
Uh-huh.
idea I had pitched to Skyzoo was taking this Franklin character and swapping it out for Franklin from the Peanuts.
Right.
And he was like, I like that, but like that's like a little two layers. Like, okay, I understand that. But like
Right.
there's an illustration I did of Franklin from the Peanuts as Franklin Saint from Snowfall because I wanted to have those different layers.
Right.
But the story is that the show was conceptualized by John Singleton,
Mm.
and he created this character and namesake based on Franklin from the Peanuts.
Right.
And Franklin was, always kind of like the odd man out
Yes.
in, the Peanuts universe. So I think some of that made its way to Snowfall. This Franklin character is highly intelligent, kind of odd man out, finding his way and everything. And I look at Franklin from the Peanuts, and it seems like there's a lot of correlation there. So yeah, I definitely had Franklin from Peanuts in mind with each illustration that I was creating.
Yeah, and thank you for also pointing that out too about the idea of their lives. Like, there's correlation between the two of them because when you look at like the cartoons from back in the day, I mean, Franklin was there, but he wasn't like really a part of the group. But
No,
right, you're like he was. So that wow, that's impressive to me. Like I think that's so
thanks.
cool because it's like you said, like the Franklin from Snowfall, like he's in that, or particularly in that purity piece, like he's trying to, you know, be a part of this particular family in a way of just, you know, just kind of
Yeah.
relating to them, but not wanting to expose like who he truly is. And I'm wondering too. I mean, that's something we'll probably never know as it relates to the Peanuts, but even with Franklin being the only black character on the Peanuts
Hmm.
or in the Peanuts crew, it's like there was only so much he could, you know, share or offer as a character. Because when if you're going into the whole black experience, that would be a whole different story. So he's like, I'm
Hmm.
here, and that's all you guys need to know. Like
Yeah.
I'm the friend, and we're done. Like,
Hmm.
yeah,
Exactly.
I love that. So I know we talked about the show that you're considering to do in November, but are there any other projects that you're doing now that you want to share with us?
Let me think. Oh yeah, actually, so we covered a lot of art and curation
Yeah.
on this episode and the previous one too. I wanted to make sure that I mentioned some of the things I'm working on in terms of fashion, in terms of
Oh
styling,
wow.
like myself, and really, I don't want to say taking it seriously, but like I've been able to expand my horizons when it comes to menswear. Like when I think of myself as an individual and as a brand,
Mm,
something I've learned is like keeping it simple. In terms of branding, I have three different accounts on Instagram that kind of inform how I market myself. Raheem Nelson Art, Raheem Nelson Style, and Raheem Nelson Photo. And that was advice given to me from my mentor. And they're all very closely related. For me, I think the photo and the style are extremely close together.
mm,
What I started doing is taking my own menswear photos. I used to work with photographers, which is fine. I love working with different photographers. I still do from time to time. But I knew I wanted to have creative control and creative freedom
yeah.
over the content that was put out, like really taking menswear blogging seriously, but making it fun and kind of having the ideology that menswear, dressing well, whether, and you can be a woman into menswear as well. You know, I think it's genderless in that way where, you
Right.
know, women are wearing suit and ties and like killing it. Um, for me, it's an art form. Like I study menswear, I'm watching YouTube videos, I'm reading books. So like I already had knowledge of menswear like from years ago.
Okay.
But I really feel like I'm leveling up this year,
Mm,
like taking my own photos, getting my own equipment. Like I'm lighting myself with the lights I use to take my photos. I got a remote shutter and I got a new lens for my camera that my wife and I use. It's an 85 millimeter lens. So I'm
okay.
basically able to set up my tripod, set up my camera, and, you know, sometimes I'll take photos in the studio or, you know, outside, you know, because I like the different looks, or in New York if I'm traveling. And
Right.
like I can literally like go down the block and then still get like a great headshot with this camera.
Wow.
So I'm thinking like a creative director, I'm thinking like a model, and I'm thinking like a photographer. So like three jobs in one setting that I'm able to take on by myself, and like I'm having a blast. And I've been able to like really work with some cool brands that have like given product for me
Right.
to model and style and promote. And my thing is that it all has to make sense for what I'm doing, and it
Hmm.
has to have integrity. And I have friends in the industry as well that, you know, I look to for advice. So one brand that I definitely want to shout out is a brand based in Colombia called Beckett Simonin, and
Okay.
they found me through email, and they were like, "Hey, we're fans of your work. Like, we'd like to work with you." And they make sustainable products. They come from Colombia and they ship them over. So like leather goods, like bags, shoes, tons of stuff like that. So I've gotten pretty much all my current shoes from them, and
Wow.
just their values, their mission statement, like it was very much aligned with what I was about. Like I like to have things that are sustainably made, well made,
Right.
and if that involves like paying a premium, like that's fine. And since I was being gifted this product, I was like, okay, how do I make this a part of what I'm already doing? So I'm shooting these different videos, like either in an office setting, or maybe I'm coming into work wearing like these loafers or these sneakers, because I like to do like a smart casual or like a casual, and like making that my own. So getting these products gifted has not only informed me being able to level up in terms of business, but like also helping me take style risks. I mean, they're all calculated risks to me. I was like, I like what I like and I know what I wear, but
Right.
like they're a really cool brand to work with, and I appreciate them. And there was another brand that reached out, and their values weren't necessarily aligned with mine and how they were being created, and the labor costs and stuff like that, and how they wanted to cut costs. So I reached out to one of my friends. I was like, okay, they're willing to pay me to do A, B, and C, but I don't know if their values align with mine. So
Right.
I decided not to take the gig, and it would have been fine to do it, but like it just didn't align
Right.
with my values, because like I really take this seriously as an
Mm.
art form, like wearing florals, blue suit,
Right.
shirt has to look a certain way. And if I'm working with somebody in that capacity, this is part of me. Like I'm taking it I'm taking that ownership as something I'm presenting to the world. And I don't want to be wearing something that's like not sustainably made.
Wow. That is really cool. I mean, and here's the thing, like you always every time I see you in photos, even like our two conversations, very fashionable. You always look so put together. You know what I'm
Thank you.
saying? Um, I need some advice, maybe. Like,
I got you. Yeah, I got
no, I'm just kidding. Because
you.
here's the thing for me, like I like things like, and I don't know if this is for other people. I mean, obviously there's other people like this, you know. I see things that I like, but then I don't know if it looks right on my body. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? Like, so it's
Yeah.
like stuff like that. I think is so important to like maybe have someone to kind of like go, through that with you, and not in a
Yeah.
way that's like harsh or making like body shaming, but it's like, no, that this will look better on you, like this will fit properly or
Yeah.
whatever. That's where I need like the assistance. Like, do you think you would do something like that in the future? Like help
Oh,
people?
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I've done it here and there. Like I used to work retail at the Thai bar, and they've been another great client too. They
Uh-huh.
make menswear products and suits and this, that, and the third. So it was like that. I think that was like my first menswear level up, because I was working in New York at the time. They
Uh-huh.
had a few pop up shops. So I was on like Madison Avenue, Bleecker Street. People would come in, they'd want to be styled. Sometimes they'd come in like, and they'd have to like go to a wedding soon or something like that. It's like, oh, I need a bow tie and this, that, and the third. So like
Right.
before getting this job, like I didn't know how to tie a bow tie. Like I was fine
Okay.
with straight tie, all that stuff, the Windsor, Prince Albert knot, that kind of thing. Like that was my thing.
Right.
But I didn't know how to tie a bow tie. So like I had to learn. It was like a trial by fire, because
Uh-huh.
a lot of people don't know how to tie bow ties. So like they would look
Right.
to me for help, and I would have to like ask my coworkers for help and then watch YouTube videos. And then I finally got it. And like some days would like be crazy, where people would come in and everybody would want to get styled, and we didn't necessarily have the time to do it. So like just kind of make things fit. Um, but that was a huge level up, being able to meet people in the industry, whether they were menswear bloggers or
Hmm.
photographers, and then looking at my own style and seeing the knowledge gaps. Like for me, menswear is something like I study every day. Like I'm looking at
Wow.
other people on Instagram, but I'm also looking throughout history. Like a lot of my style cues come from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Like some
Okay.
suits like this have bigger lapels, maybe a bigger tie. Some have like lapels that are a little skinnier. And I'm kind of experimenting with silhouette. Like a lot of my suits are either like slim to tailored fit, but like now I'm kind of looking at wide leg trousers and
Hmm.
fitting that into my wardrobe. So it's just a combination of like staying up to date on trends without being a slave to them, and seeing
Right.
kind of like what fits for me, and being in discovery. Like my wife has really helped me expand my thinking beyond suits, where like I'm really into like resort shirts now and shorts, and like
Uh,
we're taking a trip to Spain soon. So I've been wearing like a lot of lighter fabrics for the summer, And people crack me up at work too, because like I'll go in without dressing like this. I'm like, who is this guy? It's like, no, I'm gonna try something different, and like it's 90 degrees outside, so I'm not wearing this today.
Like, who is that person over there?
Yeah, exactly. But it's all me. Like it's all
Right.
just how I want to style myself. So
Yeah.
I treat myself like my own stylist, and like, okay, I like this. This is the story I'm trying to tell. These are the colors I'm trying to wear. And sometimes like it might be inspired by the weather. Like when it's gray and dreary outside, I might wear like a gray suit, but I might wear something with like a pop of color to kind of even things out. So to me, it's just fun. And I started getting back into fashion illustrations because when it comes to trying out something new, maybe I bought a new piece or something. How do I integrate this into my wardrobe? And I think that also goes hand in hand with being sustainable. Like I'm not trying to buy like all these new things here and there. Like I just bought a
Right.
ton of dress shirts. Like I think I bought like 8 to 10 dress shirts, but those are going to stand the test of time. Like I'm going
Right.
to be good for the work week and like any other events I might need to go to. So I try to think in that way. Like, okay, if I get this, I'm going to let this go. Like I think I just like donated really,
Right.
4 to 5 suits, and
Mm.
like I still could have kept wearing them. I was like, you know what? I don't really need this because I got this new piece. So this is going to
Right.
go here, and this can go to somebody else who could use a suit.
Right. That is really cool. And that reminds me, my daughter, I don't know if she still is in this whole frame of upcycling,
Yeah.
but like that has been like a major trend for her. Like she will take pieces and then like create something completely different out of it. So it's like
Hmm.
just maintaining that sustainability. I think
Yeah.
that's so awesome and
Yeah.
innovative because me, like I said, once again, I need a lot of assistance when it comes to the dressing situation, but that's a whole other
Hmm.
story. But but to be able to do that, like that's another art form,
It really is. Like it's
you
so
know?
nuanced. I
Yes.
think what has really helped me is kind of treating it like a visual language. Like, what are you trying to say through your clothes? A good friend of mine, his name is Matt Banover. He has a custom clothing line called Bard's Clothing, and he works with both men and women creating custom clothing, which I think is amazing. And what I've learned from him is really using uh, how I dress to tell a story. And
Yes.
that also relates to a book I got recently called Esquire's Dress Code. And it breaks down different ways to like dress in the office, uh, after hours, and it really relates to that visual language. Like you've got suiting, but there are like different things that can fall into that, like a
Mm,
dandy. Maybe you're referencing like the 40s and 50s. Maybe you're referencing Wall Street. There's like the workwear look, like there's the Western kind of look. So I'm like kind of seeing what I like, seeing what I don't like. Like sometimes, like when fall hits and temperatures start dropping, I'm gonna swap out the blazer for like a leather bomber jacket, but I might do like a dress shirt without the tie. So that's like giving off like a James Dean kind of vibe.
yeah.
Or I might do like a cardigan for like more of a preppy look. So I'm looking and getting inspired by different time periods and different aesthetics and different visual languages. So I'm referencing those things and like making it my own and kind of like remixing what I like. So I'm like not just copying something exactly, which is again where the fashion illustration comes from, where
Right.
I'm able to pull from these different things. And then on another note too, what's really helped me, TV and film. TV
Yes.
and film has been amazing for me continuing to upgrade my style and get inspired. Like shows like Mad Men and Burn Notice and White Collar and Suits, those shows really inspire what I like to wear. That and then like going on Instagram, of course. But film and TV have been huge inspirations
Mm,
on how I like to dress and even how I like to carry myself in business too. Like it all comes from a source. It's like, what are you going to do with that? Like I try to
right.
always get something out of what I'm watching. Like I try to go beyond the surface values of stuff. Like I can enjoy something just because it's cool, but I'm always looking at like, okay, the costume design and the lighting and the cinematography, and then I'm taking that and putting it into my own stuff. Um, a show I really enjoy, and I was able to like chat with the costume designer on the show through Instagram. Godfather of Harlem. That is a
Oh,
stylish show. And I have really taken some of those visual cues and everything. And they're referencing the 60s, which is just a
right.
stylish period in itself. But I think they're really able to bring something to that. Because I've seen shows that like are based in the 60s and like they haven't quite captured what they do on that show. And I think credit goes to the team and the costume designers and everything, the creative direction. Like I love period shows and I
Right.
love being able to reference period shows in the way I dress.
Yeah. That's so cool because as you were saying that, I was thinking about I did a show in November, end of November, December, at the Met. It was called X, The Life and Times of Malcolm X.
Mm,
And the costume designer, like she was phenomenal. Like she studied that time period to the T, and like she was just like breaking it all down for us. And I was just like, wow, how amazing,
hmm
because for me, that's not something I do. So to
hmm
see that and to see that passion, it was just unbelievable. And then obviously, every time she would come to rehearsal, she was dressed like to the nines. And
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
just like, wow, like I love when people have that passion and are able to like express it in that way. So impressive. Like it really, really is. I love it.
me too.
Oh my gosh. Raheem, this was amazing.
Yeah, this is so much fun.
I I had I love this. And like I said before, like your energy is just it's just palpable. It's just beautiful, just
Thank
genuine.
you.
I love it. Oh my goodness. So before we go, if you can let everyone know where they can find you, websites, social media, yeah, take it
Sure.
away.
Definitely, definitely. So you can find me on for my website, first and foremost, raheemnelson.com. That's Raheem as in Mary, Nelson.com. For socials, you can find me on Instagram at Raheem Nelson Art, at Raheem Nelson Style, and at Raheem Nelson Photo. I'm on YouTube now also. That's been another development.
Oh,
So you can
nice.
find me on there. I think it's at Raheem Nelson, at Raheem Dash Nelson. Just put in my name, it'll show up. Black guy in the suit, glasses like this. But experimenting with like some long form content where
Yeah.
I'm able to help educate my audience. So look out for like you can follow me for style advice, photography tutorials, and of course artwork.
Oh my goodness, I love it. Thank you so much. And I will please keep me posted on the series and once it's all completed because I would love to like maybe you can come back on the show and talk to us more about the entire series and how it all worked
Oh,
out.
absolutely. Yeah, I'll definitely come back for another episode. And yeah, we can definitely talk about the series because it's very nuanced and detailed. Like, I've got a lot to share and I'm just enjoying it.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. This was amazing.
My
Thank you.
pleasure.
Oh my gosh. And thank you all for listening to this week's episode of the E to Me podcast. I'll see you next week. Thank you so much again. This was great.